So chances are when you talk about Animal Jam hackers, the earliest one you can probably think of is probably Fman. He's kind of the staple for the game, and not even just that, like the staple for the Animal Jam brand. He's such a large identity of that. But there was actually a hacker before Fman even, and this guy's name was lolkingCentury1, which is the most absurd name that you would think of for a hacker, but nonetheless, he is the earliest sighting we have seen of a large-scale hack somewhat on Animal Jam, an Animal Jam classic. So I figured today would be a perfect day to make a video on him. Guys, welcome back to Animal Jam Mysteries Unsolved Season 2. Been a long time coming. A lot of people have been asking for this series to return after it abruptly kind of just disappeared. I figured a reboot of it into a new season would be a great way to return it, and what is a better way to return than to talk about the very first Animal Jam hacker, lolkingCentury1. So for starters, we'll get into who was lolkingCentury1. Now, I really do wish I could provide more context into this specific part of the video, because I would love to meet the guy or even know who it was, but we really do not know. This guy appeared first in 2011, so way before the talks of Fman or rumors of Fman started spreading around playgrounds and schools. This guy was the first of his kind, I guess. But as for his identity, it is absolutely unknown. He kind of just appeared one day, made a scene, I suppose, and just disappeared a few days later after he got banned from the game. But there is actually a pretty big reason on why this guy is even known about in the first place, and how he actually hacked on the game, which I suppose would be the best way to transition into the next subject of how he actually did this. Now, for starters, what he actually did was change his animal name to, first of all, a blank name. So this was never done before. When opening a player card on the game, you usually will see the animal name below the username in the player card. Now, for lolkingCentury1's seal, it didn't have any name, which was obviously very peculiar for an Animal Jam character. And even back when all of this happened, the only display option for usernames and username tags in-game was for animal names. So everybody had their animal names. You couldn't switch between the two to instead see lolkingCentury1, which really kind of makes me wonder what it would have looked like if somebody captured his tag, his actual player tag, with the no name. But I digress. This was the first peculiar instance of lolkingCentury1, but the kind of one he's most known for is his tiger's name, which I cannot say the first two words without getting smited by YouTube, but we'll just say NFU. I'll probably have to scribble like middle letters just, for YouTube's sake, you know how it is. But obviously this is not a available avatar name option in Animal Jam, and it never was. So it kind of begs the question of how did he do this? Because really, to this day, I don't think anybody really found a way to do this or even imitate this through server-sided means. And what that means is where everybody on the game can pretty much see this. So if you look this up, back in the day when lolkingCentury1 was still searchable and not banned, you would see these names in game. Where, for example, if somebody did this on client-sided modifications, it would only show up for them and not for everybody else in the game, pretty much. But the only theory I have is through the ID system Animal Jam uses for pretty much everything. When it comes to items, animals, dens, everything is categorized into IDs, and this is including even animal names and texts in the game. And I'm pretty sure they're commonly referred to as strings a lot of the time as well, which has its own string table as well that categorizes certain text into one file in the game, pretty much. And I would have to suppose that he, lolkingCentury1, found a way to manipulate this when creating animal, given that the only thing he did actually do was create these weird animal names. Now, I don't know if I have a screenshot anywhere, but I do remember when talking to a person that's pretty experienced and messing around with this game, we'll leave it at that, they did actually show me a kind of list of banned words Animal Jam has, and these are like set certain words in the game, so they are technically in the game's files. So these words were, you know, technically in the game's files, meaning if you knew what the IDs were and you swapped them around for regular animal names and swapped them into these kind of words and these combinations, you would end up with something like this. Granted, you knew what you were doing, you knew what you were modifying, and you knew what you were manipulating. And obviously, I think most people, if they were able to do something like this, they probably wouldn't make this combination specifically, but that's kind of the most likely theory on how he actually was able to do this. But given even 2011, Animal Jam security was probably, let's say, not as good as it is now, even though it's not the best right now either, but it probably was a lot easier to do stuff back then of this nature anyway. But this kind of only leaves the question now of what actually happened to him after he did all this. Now, I kind of referenced this at the start of the video on what kind of happened to him. Obviously, he got banned. Someone like this is gonna get smited to oblivion by Animal Jam, but not before people actually were catching wind of this. Back in the day, most of the people you would see talking about Animal Jam anyway, usually used Animal Jam blogs, and this was kind of where a lot of this research for this video came from, as well as the images. There is exactly 5 images of lolkingCentury1 on the internet, and one of them is in-game. The other 4 are taken from my phone. Which, in all honesty, when I saw this first back in the day when I really didn't have much knowledge of the game, I kind of questioned its legitimacy, but given the bloggers that did post about it, I kind of realized, no, this was something that did actually happen. So first of all, we have a blog post from Snowy Claw, who labeled him the name hacker. So they pretty much said here, HHQ replied to my letter saying they were aware of the problem and that they banned and the animal names were back to normal. And they go on to say here, notice that he has no animal name. His other animal name is horrible, nasty language. Don't look him up if you can. As they say, curiosity kills the cat. And they go on to say, you know, don't talk about this. And pretty much that is a bad thing. But they do actually include a email from HHQ all the way back when this initially happened. And they actually wrote back saying, we've come across this person's account, saw those offensive words, and they actually knew about the issue and already changed and resolved the thing. So this was a real thing that did happen, and it led to lolkingCentury1 pretty much getting banned. And that was pretty much the last we heard of a lolkingCentury1. Now, all the way back in 2011, he kind of came and went, as I said near the start. I think it's a very good chance he might have rebranded to a different alias or something, given I think someone of that kind of expertise wouldn't just kind of give up on the game and then run tail, or it could have been like a test run or something, but that's just a theory on my end. But as for the actual name of lolkingCentury1, technically it is a mystery that is going to go unsolved probably for the rest of Animal Jam's life, only leaving us to wonder who this actually was and where did he actually go.